Good morning, all. I am Dr. S. Sharmila, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Industrial Biotechnology, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. Today, I am going to handle Principles of Chemical Engineering, and the topic is Unit Operations. So, first, we should know what is unit operation and unit process. So, unit operation is nothing but a process can be broken into series of steps, and each step involved in the process are called unit operation. If there is any chemical reaction involved in the unit operation, then it is called unit process. Let us see some unit operations. Here, we are going to see the salt manufacturing process in which many unit operations have been involved. So, the process, the operations which are involved in the salt manufacturing process are transportation, evaporation, crystallization, drying, sieving, packaging, and dispatch. So the transportation means transporting of the seawater from the sea to the evaporation ponds. Here we have the evaporation ponds. So the backwaters are mainly transported into this evaporation ponds. Next unit operation is evaporation. In this evaporation, the water which is present in this seawater is being evaporated by means of natural sunlight, the heat which is released from the sunlight. So the water is evaporated. Once the water is evaporated, the thick concentrated solution will be present in the evaporation ponds. The final product of the evaporation operation is the highly concentrated liquid, or we can say it is a thick liquid. The next unit operation is the crystallization. So crystallization is nothing but to obtain the crystal form of product, that is called crystallization. So there is a variation between the evaporation and crystallization. In evaporation, the final product will be the thick liquid. In crystallization, the final product will be the solid crystals. So the product of evaporation may be the feed for the crystallization. So in crystallization process, the highly concentrated salt solution is fed into the crystallizer and it will be formed into the small crystals by means of crystallizers. Then the next operation is drying operations. So normally what we are using the salt is the free flowing type. So this free flowing type is obtained by removal after removal of the moisture. So this moisture has to be removed from the solid crystal and it is done by the drying operation. So drying is nothing but removal of moisture from the solid. Next unit operation is the sieving. After drying, so we'll be getting the crystals, free flowing crystal, non-sticky salt crystals will be obtained after the drying process. Then after complete drying, it will be taken to the sieving operation. In sieving, the particular size of the crystals will be sieved into the sieved and it will be taken to the packaging section. Then it will be taken to the dispatch. So these are the various unit operations which are involved in the salt manufacturing process. Here there is no chemical reactions involved. That's why it is called unit operations. Let us see the other unit operations one by one. Coming to the transportation of fluid. So transportation is nothing but the transporting of the particle from one place to another place. So it can be classified into two types, fluid transportation and solid transportation. In the fluids transportation, there are two. Fluid is nothing but it may be the gas or it may be the liquid. So the liquid is transported from one to another, from lower level to higher level by means of pumps. These pumps can be classified into several types: single acting pump and double acting pump, rotodynamic pumps. Under rotodynamic pumps, we have centrifugal pumps. So here we are going to discuss about single acting pump. This is the construction of single acting pump. So the single acting pump has suction pipe. This is here we have a suction pipe. This is a suction pipe and this is delivery pipe. And at the bottom, a foot valve and a strainer will be present. The main purpose of this strainer is it will not allow any foreign particle into the suction pipe, because if it enters into the suction pipe, it may block the suction pipe. So to avoid it, the strainer will be present here at the footwall. And this is delivery pipe. Here we have two valves which are non-return valves. So non-return valve means it will be opened at only one side. It won't open at the other side. So here this will be opened at the upper side. It won't go to the downside. That's why it is called non-return valve. So this is suction valve and this is delivery valve. And the piston is present in the cylinder. Due to the piston movement only, the water will be moving into the suction pipe and it will be delivered into the delivery pipe. So this piston is connected to the crank, and when the piston moves from left side to the right hand side, this delivery valve will be closed and the suction valve will be opened. So when we consider this total volume of the pipe, so initially it will be less when the piston present here. When the piston moves from this place to this place, the volume will be increased. The volume of the pipe is increased. Since the volume is increased, we know that the volume is inversely proportional to the pressure. Since the volume is increased, the pressure will be decreased. So when compared to the underground pressure and the pipe pressure will be less. So what will happen? The water which is present at the higher pressure will be moving into the suction pipe. At that time, this delivery valve will be closed and the suction valve will be open. So all the water will be collected here and it will be present in the suction pipe. And when the piston moves from right hand side to the left hand side, the suction valve will be closed. And if you see the volume of this delivery pipe, the volume is decreased. Since the volume is decreased, the pressure will be increased. So once the pressure increased, and when compared to this particular area pressure and the delivery pipe pressure, this pressure will be more. So this delivery valve will be open and the water, whichever collected here, that will be moving into the delivery pipe and we'll be getting the water outlet. So this is the working principle of pumps. So due to the movement of this piston only, the suction and the delivery will be taking place. The next unit operation is transportation of solids. So here, so in the previous we have discussed about transportation of liquids. For transportation of solids, belt conveyors and the bucket elevators have been used. Belt conveyors. So belt conveyors mainly used for transporting of solid material from one place to the another place. So here the conveyor belt is shown here. So once the solid material, whichever is kept here, due to the movement of this belt, it will be moved into the other side. The bucket elevators are used mainly for transporting the solid material from the lower level to the higher level. So these are the instruments, these are the equipments which are used for transporting the solid material. Next, evaporation. Evaporation. So we have already discussed about evaporation. Evaporation is nothing but evaporating or vaporizing the water which is present in the liquid. So once the liquid is evaporated, we'll be getting the concentrated solution, or we can say it is a thick liquid. So the best example products of evaporation is the sugar syrup. When we prepare the sugar solution, if you keep on heating the sugar solution, the most of the water is evaporating, and finally we'll be getting the concentrated sugar syrup. Then next is the concentrating the salt solution in the salt manufacturing process. So the main product of evaporation is the highly concentrated liquid. This evaporation is carried out by evaporators, open pan evaporators and multiple effect evaporators. In open pan evaporator, it is mainly used for small batch operations, and it is mainly used since it is easy to clean. So this is the main advantage of this open pan evaporator. And multiple effect evaporator, this is multiple effect evaporator. The feed, there will be more than one effect will be present in the multiple effect evaporator. The main purpose of this multiple effect evaporator is to get highly concentrated product. When compared to this open pan evaporator, we'll be getting very high concentrated liquid product as a outlet. So here the feed will be fed into the first effect, and it will be heated by supplying the steam. The steam will be supplied through the coil, steam coil. So here indirect type of heating is taking place. Indirect type of heating is nothing but the heat which is present in the steam is transferred into the feed solution. So the steam will not be directly involved, directly contacting with this feed solution. It will be the heat only will be transferred from the steam to the feed. So once the heat transferred from the steam to the feed, the water will start to evaporate. The liquid will start to evaporate from the feed solution, and it will form the vapor. So this vapor is taken and it will be sent to the second effect. So here we are not wasting the vapor which is generated from the first effect. We are utilizing that vapor to heat the second effects. And this is the main advantage of this multiple effect evaporator. It has more heat economy. We are not wasting the steam. So steam economy is more. And the feed from the first effect, the product from the first effect is taken to the second effect as a feed. And again it will be heated by means of the vapor which is sent from the first effect. And again the water, furthermore water which is present in the feed will be evaporated, and that vapor is again utilized for heating the third effect. So continuously we are using the steam which is generated from each effect. So we are not wasting the steam, so that the steam economy or heat economy is more in case of multiple effect evaporator. And the product from the second effect is again taken to the third effect for furthermore concentration. So finally, we'll be obtaining the very high concentrated product in case of multiple effect evaporator. So the main advantage of this multiple effect evaporator is, one is the steam economy is more, and we'll be getting highly concentrated product. Next is crystallization operation. In this, we'll be in crystallization operation, we'll be getting the crystal form of product. So it is the process of formation of large crystals in pure state from their solution, which is called crystallization operation. Then next is drying operation. So drying is nothing but removal of moisture from the solid. Removal of moisture from the solid is nothing but drying. There are many types of dryers are available: tray dryer, spray dryer, screen conveyor dryer, rotary drum dryer. So let us see one by one. The first one is tray dryer. In tray dryer, so here this is a construction of tray dryer. The tray dryer consists of two trucks. This is the trucks. The two trucks are mounted in the rectangular chamber. These trucks are having the trays. The number of trays are present inside the trucks, in which we'll be keeping our solid material, wet solid material, which has to be dried. So this is the two trucks which is having the wheels, and it can be easily removed from the rectangular chamber. And each trucks carries the number of trays, and here the heater will be provided. The fresh air will be sent into this rectangular chamber, and once while it passes through this heater, it will be heated, the air will be heated, and the hot air will be passing throughout this trays. The baffles will be provided here. The main purpose of this baffle is to distribute the heat uniformly throughout the system. So then only we'll be getting uniform heat transfer as well as uniform drying. And once the hot air passes through this solid material, wet solid material, it will receive, the heat will transfer from the hot gas or hot air to the wet solid, and the hot air will become moisture. That moisture will be taken to the exhaust and it will be removed. And the wet solid will become dried solid material. Once it becomes dried solid material, these two trucks will be unloaded from this rectangular chamber, and the dried solid particle will be removed from this trays. So we need labor for loading and unloading of the feed material as well as the product. That is the main disadvantage of this tray dryer. These tray dryers are mainly used for drying the wet solid particle. It will not be used for paste like material to dry, because if we are using the pasty material to dry, the only the surface of the surface of the material only will be dried, because it is it will be like a paste. So the bottom of the material will not be dried properly. So this tray dryers are mainly suited for drying of wet solid material. And the main advantage of this tray dryer is mostly used for tablet preparation, mainly in the wet granulation method. And dryers are used where heating and drying are essential parts of manufacturing process in industries such as chemical industry, dye industry, pharmaceutical industry, food products, and colors. Then it is also used for drying pigments, bakery product, electrodes, chemical industries, as well as plastic powders industries. These are the various advantages of tray dryer. The main and the most disadvantage of this tray dryer is labor requirement for loading and unloading. It is not automated. We have to load the wet solid material. We have to load the feed material, as well as we have to withdraw, or we have to taken out our product, a dried product from the tray dryer. That is the main disadvantage of this tray dryer. Next is spray dryer. The spray dryer is mainly used for drying of slurry material. Slurry like material can be dried by means of this spray dryer. It has the chamber, drying chamber. This is the drying chamber. And the hot gas will be passing through this chamber. Hot gas will be passing through this. And the atomizer is provided to spray the feed, to spray the liquid slurry feed. So once the liquid feed is sprayed by means of this atomizer, it will form a tiny droplets of the feed. So since it is very tiny droplets, once the hot gas passes through this tiny droplets, immediately the moisture which is present in this tiny droplets will be removed off. So once the moisture removed, it will become dried powdered product, because very tiny particle. So once these tiny particle loses its moisture, immediately it will be dried, and we'll be getting the powdered form of product in the drying chamber. And this powdered form of product and the hot gas, or the we can say moist gas, will be taken to the cyclone separator. The main purpose of the cyclone separator is to separate the fluid and the solid mixture. So the cyclone separator will separate the solid particle which is present in the hot gas, and the exhaust gas will be sent to the top, so that we can separate the powdered product and the exhaust gas. So by using the spray dryer, we can get a powdered form of product. It is mainly used in the manufacturing of powdered form of product. The main three stages which is occurring in this spray dryer is atomization, spray air mixing and moisture evaporation, dry product separation from the exit air. Next, coming to the rotary dryer. The rotary dryer, the construction of rotary dryer is it has a rotating cylindrical shell, and one side the feed will be deposited, or feed will be fed into this hopper, and it will be moved through this rectangular the cylindrical shell, and the hot gas will be passing at the other end. And once it both moves in the counter current movement, so that the particles will be receiving the heat energy, the wet solid particle will be receiving the heat energy, and it will become a dried product. The dried product will be discharged at the discharge port. And the hot gas, once it receives the moisture from the wet solid, it will be sent to the other end. So this is the construction of rotary dryer. Here mainly The rotary dryer consists of flights which is present inside the dryer. This is the flights which is present inside the dryer. The main purpose of this flight is it will carry the solid particle along with it. Since it is rotating, once it goes to the top, it will drop the solid particle from the top to the bottom. And the hot gas once passes through this cylindrical shell, so all the solid particle will have contact with this hot gas. So that is the main advantage or main use of this flights. So once the solid particle receives the heat energy, it will the moisture will be removed and it will become the dried product, so that we can achieve our drying operation. So this is the operation of rotary dryer. Next, screen conveyor dryer. So here the belt conveyor will be present. The belt will be perforated, which is in the form of screen, so that the granular feed is separated at the one side, and the heater will be present in the upper side as well as in the bottom. And once the air passes through this heater, it becomes hot air, and it will be penetrating into the screen on which the wet solid materials are present, and it will be passing through this, and finally the solid particle, while it moving, it will be keep on contacting with the hot gas, and it will become dried product. At the other end, we can get our dried product, and the moist air will be taken to the outside. So this is the working principle of a screen conveyor dryer. Then next is distillation operation. So this is one of the unit operation. In this distillation, we can separate by means of the distillation, we can separate immiscible liquid mixture based on their boiling point difference. So the liquid mixture, which has to be separated by distillation operation, should have the boiling point difference. Say for example, if we have liquid A and liquid B, liquid A's boiling point is some 100 degrees Celsius, and liquid B boiling point is say some 300 degrees Celsius, and both are mixed together. And if it is fed into the distillation column, the liquid in liquid distillation column, it will be heated. Once the boiling point of the liquid A is reaches, say like 100 degrees Celsius, once the 100 degrees Celsius reaches, the liquid A will start to evaporate, will start to boil, then it will evaporate. Then the vapor will be sent to the condenser, and the main purpose of condenser is it will condense the vapor into the liquid, so that we can collect the liquid A at the other end of the condenser. But liquid B will remain in the distillation column itself, because the temperature of the content is not exceeded 100 degrees Celsius. So since its boiling point is 300 degrees Celsius, it will remain as such in the distillation column itself. So this is how we can separate the liquid mixture which are having difference in boiling point. So main thing in this distillation is boiling point difference. Next, coming to the extraction process. Extraction process is nothing but extracting of the solute from the solution or mixture by means of the solvent. That is called extraction. So whenever this distillation process become inefficient, or we can say whenever it becomes very difficult, whenever the distillation process becomes very difficult to separate the liquid mixture, then we can go for extraction operation. So in the extraction operation, there are two types of extraction operation. One is liquid extraction, another one is solid liquid extraction. In liquid extraction, the solute which is present in the solution can be separated by means of adding the third solvent. That third solvent will mix the liquid solute which is present in the liquid mixture, and it will form a separate compound, and it will form a two different layers, so that we can separate that compounds, solvent plus liquid solute. And in solid liquid extraction, the solute which is present in the solid mixture can be separated by means of adding the liquid solvent. The very best example for liquid extraction, liquid solid extraction is tea preparation process. In tea preparation process, here we have a tea powder in which our solute tea is present. So our aim is to remove this solute tea which is present in the solid mixture, and this is done by adding the liquid hot water which is serving as a solvent. So when we add the hot water into the tea powder, the tea solute, which is called it solute, which is present in the solid mixture, will be separated. So we'll be getting the tea solution. So this is the solid liquid extraction. So removal of solid by using the removal of solute which is present in the solid mixture by means of hot water, or the third solvent, which is called leaching process. Next, coming to the fluid solid separation. How to separate the fluid solids? What are the unit operations involved in this fluid solid separation? They are centrifugation, filtration, settling, osmosis, and reverse osmosis. These are the various unit operations which are mainly involved in the separation process. Centrifugation is mainly used for separating the fluid and solid. Filtration is also used to separate liquid solid mixture. Settling is used for separating the liquid and solid mixture. Osmosis is mainly used for separating the liquid and solid. Let us see one by one. First is centrifugation operation. So centrifugation is mainly used to separate very finely divided solids from the liquids, or liquids from the emulsions by means of centrifugal force. So here in centrifugation, the centrifugal force plays the vital role. So centrifugal force is nothing but moving away from the center. The solid particle will be moving away from the center. When the centrifuge or the centrifugal machine rotates, the solid and liquid mixture will be kept inside the centrifuge, and when it rotates, the centrifugal force will be acting on it. So the centrifugal force is nothing but moving away from the center. So the solid particle will be thrown away from the center. So when it throws away from the center, it will hit the solid wall, the centrifuge wall. Once it touches the wall, it will automatically, due to the gravity, it will be coming down, so that all the solid particles will be deposited or will be settled at the bottom of the centrifuge. Only the supernatant, which are the liquid particle, will be present at the top. So this is how we can separate the solid liquid mixture. This is mainly operating on the principle of centrifugal force. Next is filtration process. Filtration can be defined as the process of separating the solid matter from a liquid by passing it through a pores of a membrane, which is called filters. So here we have the filter, and if you pour the solid liquid mixture into the filter, only the liquid particle will be moving or penetrating into the filter paper, and the solid particle will be deposited or will be settled in the filter paper itself. So like how likewise we can separate the solid and liquid mixture by means of filter paper. The liquid which is coming through this filter paper is called filtrate, and the solid which is retained in the filter paper are called filtrant, or we can say it is a residue. So this is the filtration operation. This filtration operation can be classified into many types: microfiltration, ultrafiltration, and nanofiltration. All these are based on the pore size of the filter. So nano microfiltration, ultrafiltration, and nanofiltration are mainly based on the pore size. We can classify this filtration as the three types. Next is settling process. Settling is nothing but deposition of the solid particle due to the gravity. So if you have a solid and liquid mixture, and if you keep it without disturbing, automatically due to the gravity, all the solid particle will be deposited or settled at the bottom of the container. This is called settling operation, and the liquid particle will be present at the top. So this is called settling process. So settling is also one of the process, separation process, which are used for separating the solid and liquid mixture. Next operation is osmosis. So osmosis is nothing but movement of a solvent like water through a semi-permeable membrane into a solution of higher solute concentration to equalize the concentration of the solute on the two sides of the membrane. So here we have the membrane, semi-permeable membrane, and which separates the high concentration solution, high concentration solvent, and low concentration solvent. So in this side, the solvent concentration is more, and at the other end, the other side, the solvent concentration is less. So what will happen? This solvent, where it is present at a high concentration, will try to move to the low concentrated solvent through this membrane to equalize the concentration of the solvent. This is called osmosis process, normal osmosis process. Next is reverse osmosis. In reverse osmosis, the osmosis process will be reversed. Like solvent will be moving from low concentration to the high concentration through the semi-permeable membrane by the application of pressure. So in normal osmosis, the solvent will be moving from high concentration to the low concentration. But in reverse osmosis, the solvent will be moving from the low concentration to the high concentration. Like in our home, we are using the reverse osmosis system. It is working on the principle of this low movement of solvent from low concentration to the high concentration. So if you see here, the salt water and the fresh water is there. In the fresh water, the solvent of this solution of salt water is the water. Water is the solvent and the salt is the solute. So if we see the concentration of the solvent, like the water, it will be more in this fresh water. But in case of salt water, the concentration of the water will be very less. But in reverse osmosis, by applying the pressure, we are making the water from the low concentration to the high concentration. That means from the salt water to the fresh water. So that's why we are getting the fresh water by means of this reverse osmosis process. Thank you.